Fox News alert: as the Senate nears a vote on the GOP tax bill, that news is overshadowed by a guilty plea from former White House National Security Advisor Michael Flynn in an agreement to cooperate with the Mueller investigation. For a reaction to both stories and more, we welcome Texas Senator Ted Cruz. Thanks for being with us today. Your legal mind is of interest to me right now. When the news broke today that there was a guilty plea coming from Michael Flynn, immediately partisans on both sides went out to explain why it's not a big deal or it's the biggest deal ever. From legally, would you just caution everybody to hold on a second because the investigation has a long way to go?
Well, no, I think that's exactly right. Today's news was disappointing and disturbing. General Flynn has many decades of honorable service defending this nation, and it is sad to see that he is now pleading guilty to criminal conduct. That gives all of us reason to pause. And I think from my perspective, all of us want to see what the underlying conduct was and what else may be implicated. There are multiple investigations that are ongoing. There are investigations in the Senate, in the House, and then, of course, the special counsel. So I think we should wait until we see all the facts and all the evidence before coming to a final judgment.
The reason we reached out to you last night was not because of Michael Flynn. It was about that shocking verdict out of San Francisco with a not guilty verdict in the murder of Kate Steinle. Your reaction to that, sir?
Well, the verdict was frustrating, and it makes you angry. Kate Steinle, a beautiful 32-year-old young woman, shot down in the prime of her life. She died in her father's arms, crying out, "Daddy, save me." As the father of two daughters, I can't imagine the agony. I've visited with Ms. Steinle's family, and I know they are grieving, and the verdict only makes the grief all the harder to deal with. What's most frustrating, Dana, is this crime never should have happened. And the best response to this verdict last night is that the Senate should take up and pass Kate's Law. Kate's Law is legislation I've introduced in the Senate that says if an illegal immigrant illegally enters the country a second time with an aggravated felony, that immigrant will face a mandatory minimum prison sentence. The person who shot Kate Steinle had been deported 5 times. He was an illegal immigrant, had been in and out of jail. If Kate's Law had been on the books, the person who pulled the trigger would have been in a federal prison cell instead of out there on that pier that night, and Kate Steinle would still be alive and with us today. The best thing Congress can do is pass Kate's Law right now and prevent the next tragic murder like the one we saw in California.
Do you think that the case was not well argued and presented by the prosecution, and would you support federal charges against him?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't examined the evidence that was presented at the trial and the specific arguments that the prosecutor made. As I understand it, the defense argued that the firing of the gun was accidental, and the jury heard those arguments. But none of that at the end of the day really matters, because if Kate's Law had been on the books, that defendant never would have been on the pier, never would have had that gun in the first place, because he would have been in jail, because he'd been deported 5 times. He was a repeat criminal. And when you allow illegal immigrants who are repeat criminals to be released, to be protected by sanctuary cities like San Francisco, the result is it's more dangerous for all of us.
Do you think that Senator McConnell would actually put that on the floor after you finish with tax reform, which looks like is going to be a successful one for the Republicans?
I hope so, and I'm certainly urging Mitch to take it up. We've taken it up and voted on it before, and the Democrats have filibustered Kate's Law. I hope they'll change their views. But you're right, tax reform, we're getting ready to go vote on it in just a few minutes, and I'm very encouraged. It looks like we have the votes. I've been working night and day this year to really bring Republicans together to get to 50 votes, and I think we're on the verge of major historic tax cuts, lowering tax rates for small businesses, for farmers, for ranchers, for families. It's a big deal, and I'm very encouraged with where we are right now.
I imagine the mood's a little better today than it was when Obamacare repeal and replace didn't pass.
That's exactly right. And I'll tell you, Dana, one of the big deals in tax reform is part of this is repealing the individual mandate from Obamacare. That's something I argued for vociferously with a handful of other conservatives. We persuaded our colleagues, and it's in the bill, 6.5 million people every year the IRS fines under Obamacare because they can't afford health insurance. We're giving tax relief to all those people and ending that very unfair part of Obamacare.
Senator, I've loved having you on the show and would love to have you back back. We're coming up on a
Good.
hard break. Senator Ted Cruz, thanks so much.